you. Oh, Jerry, you're back or you're in New Jersey?
We're in New Jersey. We're packing and packing and packing.
I'm packing.
How many years?
Actually, we're not really packing. What we did, we've given away a lot of things. Gabby, we're at Gabrielle's house right now. And Gabby, that's Rebbetzin Gibber. That's okay. And she set up our bedroom in her beautiful townhouse so when we come to visit. And we're going up to Goshen, and my son is setting us up with their bedroom up there. So it's going to be nice.
I'm so happy that you're packing up, and we know that there's a lot of nostalgia, a lot of memories, a lot of thoughts, but we are so looking forward to welcoming you.
You're looking for the 5 Shabbos ovens so we can cook a real thing, right? 5 professional Shabbos ovens to do an event for 500 when COVID's over.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
That's what we're looking for.
Hi, Regina and Bill. We haven't seen you in ages.
So nice to see you.
Hi, Bill.
Oh, glad to see Radine's on. I was worried about her. Haven't heard from her.
Bill, Yitzi wants to ride on the golf cart.
So nice to see everybody. Can everybody hear us okay? Yeah. Wonderful. So welcome to our Around the Shabbos table. We miss everybody. So great to see everybody. It's so wonderful to invite you to our virtual Shabbos table, and we hope we are inching closer and closer to when we could be able to be around our real and actual Shabbos table. Hope you and your families are safe and healthy and well, and hope you had a great week, and we're looking forward to a beautiful, beautiful Shabbos. So things have been very busy in fast-moving, fast-growing Boca Raton. Literally every day is filled with, it seems to be new families and more growth, and there's like going to be nobody left anywhere else in the United States. Everybody's coming to South Florida, and everybody's coming to Boca Raton, and everybody's coming to the Boca Jewish Center. And Baruch Hashem. What, Radine? You're muted. You're muted.
Okay.
Whatever you said, we agree with. Whatever it is, we agree with you. Hold on. Matthew, can I mute her? No? Okay, well, let's just go with whatever you said.
You can text his phone. Anyone who has comments can text his text. At this hour, I have no battery left on my phone.
That's the hallmark of a true champion. Like how much anybody charge? Do you charge your phone during the day? Who's got you got to keep your phone charged and plugged in. You remember when they came out with those battery packs and you'd have to like stick your phone in the battery pack? Remember that? It's like super clunky. My shirt pocket would always be dripping down. All right, so we have an interesting conversation. Jam-packed Parsha, very full, powerful week, and so many things going on. Current events in the world news and great milestones and huge happenings. We continue to celebrate the growth of our community and looking forward to welcoming in the month of Kislev, the month of Hanukkah, the light of illumination of this beautiful month, and just the inspiration that we feel each day, each week, each month in this season, and all of us together. So as Jen said, comments we love and the conversation we cherish. So anybody who has comments to share in the chat, in this chat here or with me, on my phone, you can please feel free to do so. So here's the conversation that we wanted to have tonight, a good question and query and way of kind of growing from the Parsha each week and thoughts. So I guess I'll start with this. So I think you'll remember that in 2000, in early January of 2020, like that seems like, eons ago, but you'll remember like in the aftermath of like so many rising anti-Semitic events that the horrific crimes that were happening against Jews over a good number of years, really, here in the United States. So there were 25,000 people going together on January 6th of 2020, right in the turn of the new year, for a solidarity march. And the solidarity march took place, and it was really geared against anti-Semitism in New York. They were walking across bridges and towns and things of that sort. The idea was really to stand tall and stand proud against anti-Semitism, proudly Jewish against, you know, the recent horrific hate crimes against Jews over time. And it's interesting, you know, when you talk about like what is the parade ground, you know, those who are able to watch the Thanksgiving Day parade from your window or from your block, like what's your parade ground? So the parade ground, really, this is true of a lot of, you know, parade ground of this, you know, of this kind of demonstration and this gathering was really social media. And over social media, even though the 25,000 people who assembled, there were many, of course, who were invited to which was the main parade ground. And Jews literally around the world, you know, posted pictures of themselves with Jewish stars and, you know, just yarmulkes and wearing their tzitzis. And often these pictures were also associated with the hashtag, you know, Jewish and proud. And it's interesting that the American Jewish Committee, the AJC, declared Monday, January 6th as Pride Day. And there was a lot of conversation about, you know, designating one day as a day of Jewish pride. And this was really geared toward, and obviously we haven't had the first, like the annual Jewish Pride Day. You know, it was geared toward urging Jews to wear their Judaism proudly, whether it was a yarmulke or anything identifiably Jewish. So they were urged, everybody was urged to wear the Jewish public, you know, the Jewishness publicly. We sound choppy. Is that better, Matthew?
Rabbi, sound is terrible.
No, it is terrible.
I mean, you fade in and out, in and out.
Any more in than out? Matthew, is everybody muted? Can you mute us and see how that goes? Yeah. Anyone keep messing with our computer here? Let's try this. Now, let's try this now. How's that? Any better?
Better. So far.
So far, so good? Clicked my heels and I said, no place like home, no place like home. Let's see how that goes. Anyway, welcome to our Around the Shabbos table. Hey, everybody. Radine and Bill, so good to see you. I haven't seen you.
What'd you guys miss?
What'd you miss?
What?
What?
Can you hear us?
Now we can hear you. Yes.
Amazing.
Everything okay?
Everything's good. Okay, perfect. Anyway, so the idea is, you know, this you know, the January 6th decision to make that day the Jewish Pride Day. The AJC is proclaimed that this is the day, and everybody would wear their Jewish and their Judaism with pride. And the idea was, whether it was a yarmulke or anything that else was identifiably Jewish, you know, this was the time, the day to, you know, to do that. And what's interesting, obviously, when you think about that, you know, people were urged to post pictures of themselves and, you know, on social media, and there were huge numbers of comments, a sentence about what it means to be Jewish. And you can imagine, like, what was the you know, the support, what was the, you know, the communal support and things of that sort. But there was also a good number of people that pushed back, because of the fact that there was like a single day as opposed to like always. You know, I remember, you know, growing up, my mother used to tell me that Mother's Day is really not supposed to be one day of the year. It's supposed to be every single day. It was just a day that Hallmark was able to identify a day of, buying cards for mothers, but really is every single day. And the idea of that it's not one day, it's every day. So I guess the idea of wearing your Judaism and being proud about your Judaism, the positivities of that and the support that's felt doing that, the power of the numbers and the pushback. And the reason why it's an important conversation actually is as it plays itself into our Parsha this week. And the way it plays itself into our Parsha is to think about what that Judaism, as you wear it, and how you live with that Judaism, what that means to other people. But I guess before we get to that, what are your thoughts about that? Wearing your Judaism, you're for it, you support it, you hear resistance to it. Is it in people's face? Does it present a certain sense of you know, elitist? Is there a certain sense of people being reticent to show who their allegiance is, what their religious affiliation is? People sometimes, whether it's on college campuses or whether it's in, you know, institutions around the world, holding that back. What are your thoughts about that? James, take it away.
Well, it's also a question of do you only decide to wear your Judaism when you're struck with negativity, or is it something that you should do even without the anti-Semitism? Like, why all of a sudden do you decide to show your Judaism when you're being attacked? Maybe that's...
Is it necessary to show your Judaism? Like, should you show your Judaism? Is it something that we should be encouraged to do now? We should encourage others to do? Is there a sense of, there's all these like social injustices. There's so many movements now. Everybody's lives matter, but there's a certain level of banding together and bonding together. Is it necessary to express that, to show that? It's a yarmulke, it's a kippah, it's a chain, it's a Star of David. It's something. How important is that?
It also reminds me of what we were talking about at the challah bake, of what you see a lot for sure in Boca, called bageling. Like how people, like, you'll be walking on the street on a Tuesday and someone will yell out the window Shabbat Shalom, because they just want you to know that they're Jewish. And there's something about, wanting to be connected and showing that we stand together, even when there's not anti-Semitism. People want to feel like they're part of something. But you're asking, what should we do that?
Should we do that? Are there benefits to doing that? Is it only in a time of struggle and it's tumultuous and it's in an avenue of persecution, of anti-Semitism? How do we do it without that? How do we band and bond together, preemptively and positively, and do that in a way that elicits a sense of Kiddush Hashem, in a way that, even though despite the differences as they exist, and is it necessary to do that? Sometimes people are very, more interested in to conceal their identity than to reveal their identity. And is anything wrong with that? What is your, I remember my grandparents of blessed memory. So whenever we would go out anywhere, we were the Phillips family. And when I was a kid, I never knew like what that meant. We were the Phillips family. And then I there are people that want to just conceal their identity, whether it's because they're Judaism or they want to conceal their I don't know.
Or it's too complicated to spell your last name.
Maybe it's too complicated to spell your last name. A whole host of what do you think about that?
I think if you live as a Jew, I don't think you have to flaunt it. I don't see any advantage to it. I think living a honest Jewish life is all you have to do. You live in community. And I don't see any benefit. I think it's a detriment when they get together and these people that are waving flags and I bet you they don't live Jewish lives.
Right.
I bet you they don't live Jewish lives. They're out there for the show. And I don't think it's necessary.
There's something about when you put on the uniform and you identify with a team and you identify with a movement or religious group, that you would hold yourself to a higher standard, and that if you would be wearing something or part of a banded brotherhood or a fraternity or sorority.
Does a baseball player wear his uniform all the time to show that he's part of the Yankees or the Mets? He doesn't, but he's still a member.
Right.
Also, women don't have like the quote uniform,
right. So,
like the men do.
So it doesn't have to be a thing necessarily that you're wearing, or does it? Sure, what do you say?
When years ago, we were going on a trip, and we were in Kentucky, and where was it, Mammoth Cave? And I went to the bathroom, and I'm waiting online, and there's a lady in front of me with her little daughter, and she looks at me and goes, "Sister, you can go in front of me." I'm like, okay, why is she calling me my sister? And then when I leave the bathroom, she goes, "God bless." And I'm like, oh, she thinks that I have my black clothes on and I have this on. She thought I was a sister. So I looked at her. I was like, actually, I'm Jewish. She's like, "You're a Jewish sister?" I'm like, "I have sisters, but I'm Jewish, not a nun." But she's like, "Oh, I never met anyone Jewish before." So for a second, I was like, what can I wear differently so that doesn't happen again? Someone doesn't think I'm a sister. But I love that it was an opportunity. I had Etty with me, and Etty said, "Thank you." And there was, a nice exchange. I was like, if this could be the first time she meets someone Jewish, I'm happy that, she realized I wasn't a nun and I was Jewish.
I have a good feeling that if they just meeting you, just having conversation, being in a company of someone polite and proper and gracious and grateful, so all of that, then they would hear and learn that you're Jewish. Like, do you advertise that? Or is that an opportunity to advertise that, especially if you have, children that you're teaching, to be proud of who they're?
Right. I thought about it for a second. I could have just gone with it being a nun. I could have just gone and said bless her and walked out of the bathroom. But I realized it was an opportunity. She liked me from our conversation, and that's why she wanted me to go in front of her and called me sister and blessed me. So I wanted to take it as an opportunity to make a Kiddush Hashem.
So,
I almost got the same thing. Nobody called me a sister, but
He called you a brother. Called you a brother.
Yeah, almost. I was walking to my yeshiva. I was married already, but I would stay in the dormitory for Yom Kippur. And so I walked from the dormitory, it was a couple blocks away from the yeshiva, and I was wearing my kittel and the white yarmulke in the morning before davening, walking through the alley, and somebody, a lady came up to me and said, "Are you a father?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "Bless me, Father." And I realized, oh no, not that kind of father. I guess it runs in the family.
Yeah, Radine, what do you want to share?
I was thinking, Linda, of all the times we would walk through Boca Grove and all the golfers would say Good Shabbos. So everybody would just identify. I just walked plainly.
Right.
And everybody was so happy and so proud if they could just say something nice to us and say Good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom.
one of you.
Yeah. So
They wanted to feel part of us.
Right.
that actually brings to mind like another idea. Some people who are trying to conceal their identity, right? So then like we're never able to conceal our identity. Remember we went to Disney a bunch of years ago, the first time when we moved here, went to Disney the first time, and I put on a 3-button polo shirt.
No, it was a baseball game.
And we also, we went to Lion Safari.
Yes. And I wore a baseball, I think maybe it was Lion Safari, we were together.
Yeah.
I wore a baseball cap and I wore a 3-button polo
I'm
shirt.
like, what do you think?
Jen's like, what are you saying? They don't know you're Jewish. You're Jewish. They need a 10th Romanian. They're calling you. What makes you look Jewish?
I love when they walk over. They're like minion, and Joey's like, I'm wearing a sweatshirt and a cap. How do they know?
Jira, maybe she was unhappy that she let you go first in the bathroom.
Knots that you were punching on at, Safari.
So it works. It works positive. It works negative. I'm just reminded, Radine, as you say that, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, of blessed memory, the great sage, the great, Torah giant who died in 1994. He would go around actually and actively say Shabbat Shalom, Good Shabbos to anybody he would see walking the streets of Jerusalem, to give them a chance to say Good Shabbos and them to interact with each other and engage with each other and to be able to connect, because it's true. When you see people walking in Boca Grove or walking the streets of Jerusalem and that you say Good Shabbos, it's just, there's a kinship, there's a brotherhood, there's a connection that's unbelievable. I'm also reminded, this is a story, I know Linda, you've probably heard this a lot of times, a number of years, they used to have a 9:45 flight from LaGuardia back to Fort Lauderdale. You remember that flight? That was like the late flight back. And I remember one of my, everyone was like excited about that flight. You could spend the day in New York and you could take a late flight back. I remember one of my students got married and he asked me to be Masada Kedushin, and I went for the day. For some reason, I had to be back the next Monday morning. I don't remember exactly. And I flew out Sunday morning. I came back Sunday night and I was like bombed, exhausted. I took that 9:45. I was like, schwitzy from my whole wedding. And I remember like I decided to upgrade my seat. You can pay a little extra. At the time, it was like $20. You could pay $20 and get extra leg room. I felt like a prince. I'm gonna sit in the front row. I'm gonna sit on the aisle, and I'm gonna get on last, and I'm gonna get off first, and it's gonna be great, and I'm gonna be able to get home faster. Remember that? Like I'm sitting there, they're closing the doors, like final boarding. And I finally said, all right, fine, I'll bite the bullet and I'll board the plane. It was like 9:44. They're about to take off, and I get on the plane. And I could feel the energy, like I'm walking down the tunnel. I could feel like the pressure. The flight attendants are like coming to the right at the precipice between the plane and the end of the tarmac, the end of the tunnel. And as I get onto the plane was completely full. And in slow motion, the flight attendant says to me, do you mind, switching. Standing in the middle of the aisle of the airplane, and like the 226 other people on the plane, they're like all watching, waiting for me to say yes. And of course the props that were there, like there was a mother and a baby crying, I want to sit next to my mommy. And it was like this horrific scene. Okay, so where's the seat? 22 middle. Like, you remember I said aisle, I'm on the first last one in, first one out. So like, what am I going to say? I'm like, doomed. I paid for that. I want to get on there. I wanted to sit there. If I say no, I was going to get booed. So I decided I established what I call yarmulke position 1, 2, and 3. Yarmulke position 3, like somewhere like hanging off the back of your head. 2 is there. 1 is like right there.
Albert stop.
That's right. I threw my yarmulke to yarmulke position 1. Really, I leaned forward. I put my hands like this, like I said, sure, I'd love to. Did you offer me a free Diet Coke to do that? Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing. Yes. They were clapping and cheering because I was just thinking to myself, like, and it was a disaster. It was sitting in the middle, but it wasn't. It was a Kiddush system. So like wearing your Judaism, you know, you always wonder like how that's going to go and what.
So I think what Linda said, like your external things that are supposed to remind you that you're a Jew and it's supposed to keep you acting like a Jew in those situations, they're meant for you to always act in a way that befits a Jew. So I think that's what's the most important, to, you know, that your behavior is Jewish and that you're always mindful of, you know, who you are and what you stand for. I agree that's the most important thing. I had a teacher once that was telling us that he was dealing with some kind of bill that like they undercharged him or something, like where he had an opportunity to say, you know, that he didn't have, he owed more or something like that. And he made sure to say, you know, I'm an Orthodox Jew and we have to be, you know, honest in our dealings. I actually was just at the Apple store and I didn't say that I was a Jew, but my keyboard on my laptop is not working. So but I didn't have enough time for him to download everything onto my new computer. So, but if I came home, I didn't have the keyboard. He's like, why don't you just buy a keyboard and just return it, buy it and use it to like change all your stuff and then you'll return it. And I'm like, is that honest? And he's like, yeah, what's wrong with that? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm like using it and I'm not sure if I'm keeping it. And he's like, no, it's totally fine. We offer that service. I'm like, isn't that like the same thing as buying a dress and wearing it and then you're returning it? Like, it's just, he's like, what's that?
Lost you.
Lost me.
How about now?
Now you're back.
Wendy, we should have asked you for a keypad. Thank you.
Well, I still need one. I actually just got one on Amazon. Shoot. Because the second I got home, they told me they were going to like freeze my screen. And then the second I got home, it went back to not being able to use. But that wasn't the point. The point is that I maybe should have said, you know, in my religion, we have to be very, you know, honest, and we don't do things that could be, you know, maybe look like stealing.
We have an opportunity. You're saying an opportunity
to make.
Mandy, you got a keyboard for Jen? Because
of course.
I can't return the thing from Amazon now after that because this is. We bought it.
I always have one. I have one always, an extra one.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll be.
So we can't return it though. We can lend it to you.
I could cancel my order.
I could have transferred your new computer to the old one too.
It's such a headache. Anyway, what does anybody else think about the topic? Wearing your Judaism or not?
So let me tell you a Torah perspective that I think is essential. And this like kind of jumped right out at me. You know, we all know that the main story in our Parsha this week, in Parshas Toldos, is the story of the two sons born to Yitzchak and Yaakov and Esav. And there is so much in this story. In the womb, they're battling each other in that sense. Of course, when Rashi tells us that when Rivka would pass the base medrash, so Yaakov would kick, and when they would pass the house of idolatry, Esav would kick. And the story of the securing of the blessings, and the voice is the voice of Jacob, and the feeling is the feeling, the touch is the touch of Esav. There's so much to this story. And then eventually after the blessings are secured, so then Esav wants to kill Jacob, and Rivka encourages her son to flee. To love on, and of course you know that. But there's an interruption in this parsha. There's what seems to be almost like an unnecessary pausation to this story, and then there's the story of the digging of the wells. The story is told about how Yitzchak goes down to Gerar and he meets up with Avimelech, and he has all of this encounter. And again, the story is, this is not, tell them that you're not my wife, tell them that you're my sister. And this way, because of the fact that you're beautiful and fair upon, and therefore they'll keep me alive because of this. And Avimelech and deja vu, right? We heard that story before. And Avimelech, of course, then sees them co-interacting with each other, clearly not his brother and sister. That's your wife. What have you done to us? They nearly molested her, and so on and so forth. The story is told. Then the interesting, the Torah says that he becomes very wealthy, Yitzchak. And immediately after he becomes very wealthy and he's very successful, he has a lot of cattle and a lot of herd and a lot of property, a lot of things. There seems to be some battle. There's some type of machlokas, some type of infraction of some sort. And Avimelech tells Yitzchak, leave us. You can no longer stay with us. Part ways from us and be away from us. Don't be near us. And that's what happens. They part ways, and it's almost like as you're reading this in the parsha, this whole story of Yitzchak and Esau, and Yaakov and Esau, like, what is this story doing here? And then we see something unbelievable happens. The wells are dug, the redigging of wells that were previously there, the name of well Beersheba, the 7 wells, and this is the name of the town in that place as it was then. And then the Torah tells us, right at the end of the 4th Aliyah, that Avimelech goes on a peace mission. He goes on a peace mission with Pichol, his general of his army, and they meet up with Yitzchak. And what do? When they see each other, Yitzchak says to them, I'm confused. You sent me away. You pushed me away from you. You don't want me to be near you. Why? We were warring with each other. This seemed to be machlokas. Why is it that you're here now? What have you come to see? What have you come to do? So they came to make peace with him. They came to now amend their ways. They came to now make things better. Now, but here's what's interesting. Yitzchak says, you hate me. You drove me away. And as I'm thinking, as I'm reading this, going through the parsha, how many times we have the enemies and our antagonizers, people that hate us, they drive us away, they want to drive us away, they want to be away from us. And then there's the story of then he comes back to them. And he comes back to Yitzchak, and he wants to have peace with him and his people. And Yitzchak says, I don't understand. You drove me away. That's his language. And this is what he says. They say to him the following. It doesn't say that we make peace with you. Is that better? Is that better?
Mendy's doing, when Mendy comes on, something happens. That really?
Yeah.
I'm guilty. I'm just listening attentively.
You're so sweet as what you are. Even though it seems as if they've come to make peace, which it seems that they've done, it doesn't say that we're going to make peace. It doesn't say that we've had machlokas. It doesn't say that we're coming to amend this fracticide. Here's what it says. When Yitzchak says, what are you doing here? Why are you here? He says, you should know, we have seen that Hashem has been with you. We see that Hashem is on you. We see that you live with Hashem, and so therefore, we cannot be away from you. We can't be in war with you. We have to be in peace with you. We have to make an eternal covenant with you. The reason why he wants to make peace with him, there's an enemy that there is, and an enemy that is now no longer is indicative and directed by. They're seeing that Yitzchak has Hashem on him and with him, and he lives with him. And the commentaries point out that this is what it meant, that Yitzchak lived with Hashem in such a way. Now, it doesn't mean that, Linda's answer isn't the right answer. It could be that both of these answers are correct. That truly, when you live with Hashem, you exude something. When you live with your Judaism in a proud way, you live with a tenacity and a restlessness in the world of standing up for what you believe in, your Jewish values and the morals and the 613 precepts in a very profound and powerful way. But the commentaries say that they weren't motivated to make peace with Yitzchak for any other reason than they realized that Hashem is with him, that Hashem is upon him, that he wears Hashem, that he lives with Hashem. And some of the later commentaries have taught and used this whole episode to explain that part of how we're able to interact with the people around us that really, by their nature, have disdain for us and want us to be eradicated, is that their desire to be close to us is the realization of the type of people that we're supposed to be. When we live as we're supposed to be, when we act as we're supposed to act, when we live with Hashem, whether it's that we wear it openly, and wearing it openly is a function of how it will ultimately inspire us internally. When we live with that, so then the Avimelechs of the world, those people who want to drive us away, those people want to make peace with us. Their interest in making peace with us is in relation to the type of people we live as. And when we live as people that Hashem was with us and we with Hashem, commentaries say, he wasn't saying that, the treaty that needs to be made because we have to make business together, we have had machlokas and dispute with each other. No. I want to make peace with you because I see that Hashem is with you. God is with you and you are with God. And because you walk with God, we have to walk with you. The covenant and the tranquility and the peace that goes with that is ultimately related to our relationship with the Almighty. And part of where this conversation then goes is that when people see that, now it doesn't have to be that they actually see your yarmulke and see your tzitzis or see a Star of David or necessarily know anything. The fact that they were able, Shira, in your example, be able to interact with you and say, hey, I'm Jewish and this is how we talk and this is what we do and this is how we live and so on and so forth. That was able to reveal the identity of what it means to live with God, with whatever you say and whatever you do. And the opportunities that we have when they present themselves to be able to do that and to live with that is maybe the opportunity that we don't take often enough. And we take that opportunity like really seriously. I'm thinking about the late Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, who took his Judaism to the House of Lords, who took it into the chambers of the highest echelons in government and in politics and the highest level in the rabbinate, to be able to take your Judaism and to wear it proudly and to live it not unapologetically and proudly, profoundly. What that does is not only does it inspire your own identity, of course, but what it also does is it creates a sense of peace and tranquility that exists in the world. There's almost by default, you bring your enemy to submission. It's like that old saying, you kill him with kindness. You submit your enemy by just simple virtue of the fact that they have no other choice because you're a godly people. And as a godly people want to be around that. Maybe people are intimidated by that, maybe without the continual, faithfulness towards that, to the religion that we say we do, but we don't do. But when there is that sense of continuity and sincerity and genuineness, it really breeds that sense of harmonious relationship. And that's this idea of where their desire was a desire to make peace because God was with them and God was seen Yitzchak wanting them. What do you think about that?
I just don't think people are as God aware today as then, that they would want to be connected to you because you represent God. I don't think people are looking for God in their life necessarily in the general public.
So I don't know if they're necessarily looking for it, but maybe they see it and they're inspired by it. What do you think? Is there a godliness that people are looking for? Is there a godliness that people see? Is there a virtue that people are craving? I find that
I think people do crave like authenticity. They are drawn towards people who seem like just good people. I don't know if they equate it to God, which it is godliness. Mary, you had something to say?
When I moved in to Boca Grove, I was warned ahead of time that the woman who lived next door to me was anti-Jewish. She was an anti-Semite. She hated the Jews. I just ignored it. I treated her like I treat everyone else. And the end of the story is she came to the synagogue and left a donation in my name because she realized that all Jews were not like the Jews she knew before.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, she came to shul and it was a lot of time. I did a lot for her, and she respected that I respected my religion, that I didn't ride on Saturday, that I didn't do certain things. And she respected that. And I think that's what I mean by showing and living your life as a Jew. I didn't go and say, okay, I'm going to convert her. I just treated her, normally. And she did. She made a couple of donations to the show.
I'll tell you what's amazing about that is that, see, there are people that are just kind for kind's sake. Like you're a kind person. You would be people because she was in need, and that's not the first and only example. I mean, I know you've been to so many people as an advocate and generous and kind, right? Giving rides to people and helping people get to doctor's appointments and things of that sort. But what you were able to do is translate that kindness into a manifestation and a reflection of your religion. It was based on the type of faith that you come from and the type of person that you are, and not necessarily overtly. It's not like you're saying, okay, there's a mitzvah in the Torah to be generous and kind. That's the reason why I do that. You could do that. But the answer ultimately is that you did it as a transmission of your faith. And she was able on her own, right? She was able on her own to be able to deduce and to conclude that your kindness would mean that there is a donation that should be given to your synagogue, because there's a relationship between your synagogue and the type of person that you are. And I think that's the idea, is that how do we live our lives? This is not like an appeal, a fundraiser, but the greatest fundraiser in the whole world for our people is when we act as we should. And that is where you bring the enemies and the antagonizers and the unknowledgeable and the unknowing people around the world that they just don't know. We think that people know, but people really don't know. I've been asked in Boca Raton, am I Jewish? Like a number of times. I remember walking to shul on Shabbos. I'm wearing my hat. I'm wearing a suit. I had a beer. I'm saying, are you Jewish? Sorry, excuse me, are you Jewish? And I'm tempted to say, like, no, but yeah, I mean, but like you'd be surprised that people don't really know, and their impressions of Jews with horns and from foreign places, and the realities are that the association between the things that we do, the things that we say, and the transmission of that between that and your synagogue or your faith and your people. So it doesn't have to necessarily be that you wear it, but you wear it in the way you live it. It's the way you live it.
Rabbi, I don't remember. I don't know if you recall. Probably about the second or third Shabbos, we moved here. I asked you, do any members of your congregation live near shul? Because I didn't. First of all, in my own neighborhood, I didn't know anybody who was Jewish. It didn't seem like there was anybody who was Jewish. And suddenly all of us, after Shabbos, either walking to shul, going to shul, I'd pass by a neighbor and they'd say, good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom. And I discovered probably 3/4 of my street are Jewish.
What?
The more interesting aspect of that was there's an older couple, probably in their 70 years old, across the street from me. And every time I walked by on Shabbos, he'd say Shabbat Shalom. And then I got to know them. He's Armenian, Eastern Orthodox Christian. His wife is Turkish, formerly Muslim, secular. And they're married. First of all, people who know the history of the Armenians and the Turks realize that that's a real phenomenon when you have a marriage between an Armenian Christian and a Turkish Muslim. But that was the most interesting thing. I got to know all the other people. Neighbors on both sides are Jewish, very Jewish in a sense, not in an Orthodox way, but but they recognized me going to shul on Shabbat, on the Chagim and stuff. They would address me very normally. It didn't seem to be begging. It was just to let you know, we have members of the tribe who live near you in your neighborhood.
I love it. Mayor, did you have something you wanted to share? Dear Mayor, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Mayor.
You don't hear me?
Oh, now we hear you.
Okay. You talk about the yarmulke and everything. That sometimes bothers me very much, because if I go to a doctor, but I know he's Orthodox, and I see him walking around without the yarmulke, and I see on the doors no mezuzahs on the doors. Why is he hiding this Jewishness? What is more important to him, his belief in Hashem, or is this more belief in the business? The people, I think, even if I'm not a Jewish person, like Mark expressed himself now here, that he's not Jewish and he recognizes and respects the Jewishness, and a Jew doesn't respect the Jews.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Why is this? Why they're hiding? Can they not be truthful with themselves?
Yeah. So I think that's part of this conversation. It's part of the divide. You see a lot of people that are very proud of their Judaism, and they wear their yarmulke, and they wear their Judaism very proudly. And there are others. It might be
that they're not proud.
It might not be that they're not proud. I don't know. It could be that you're held to a higher standard. And a part of it is that when you wear your Judaism, you have to be like, when you wear your Star of David and you wear your yarmulke and your tzitzis, it means that you stand for something. So that means you have to be careful with what you say and how you say it and what you eat and where you eat it. And, you know, there are people that look to hide away from that.
Or they don't want to share their personal life with their patients.
I don't understand why, if I know that he's Orthodox because he goes in shul and he's Orthodox, reads the Torah and everything, and goes to his office, and then it's a whole different world.
I don't know if that's where that's from. The only thing I could say is I think that there's a certain residue that is left over from, you know, when Old Country came to the United States, and there was the idea of working on Saturday and you know, keeping a job and things of that sort. So you know better than I do, there was a whole host of just people that would be more inclined to conceal their identity for the opportunity of earning a livelihood. Now, part of the blessing of living in this country now is the ability to have that religious freedom and to be able to do it properly. And listen, I'm an idealist. So as an idealist, I think for a doctor, a lawyer, a banker, any person to be able to wear their Judaism is an opportunity for people to make a Kiddush Hashem, to sanctify God's name. Now they're just, you know, listen, there are people that there are certain standards. There are standards that, I'll give you an example. When I was in graduate school, and I remember I had to do a research assignment, and I was wearing my yarmulke. I was already a rabbi teaching in a yeshiva, and I was doing a research assignment. And there was a fellow on our research team, and he didn't, unfortunately, you know, the idea of speaking with, you know what nivel peh is, with foul language, you know, the secular world, and unfortunately even in the Jewish world, but certainly in the secular world, to say certain profanities is very common. It's like, it's not, to me, if my kids, God forbid, were to hear a curse word on the street, I would shrill. I'd be, you know, if I ever said a bad word or had a bad thought, I'd have a bar of soap in my mouth like nobody's business. Like it was scary. So I remember this fellow who's on my research team, he said a bad word, and I don't know, I must have had a reaction. He's as if I was like a caveman. Like, are you serious? Like it's bad enough you told me you don't have a TV. It's already, you're for sure a caveman. But now, like, I just said, like, seriously, explain to him, listen, you see this thing on my head? It's called the kippah. And this yarmulke on my head, it's a reminder that God is above me. I've been studying in a yeshiva and studying Talmud and Gemara. My ears have just not heard words like that in a long time. Please, there's like a purity to my ears. Like I simply don't know what those words are. The guy was so shell-shocked. He was so stunned. He was so like didn't know what to do with himself. He says, I never met anybody who is that way, who feels that way, who thinks that way. And I think that there's a certain sense of purity, obviously, that comes with that. And there's a certain sense of integrity that comes with that. And it's frightening.
I was at the park this week in Estancia, and this man came to play basketball, and we were right near him, and he started talking to us, and he realized that I was the rabbi's wife. He's not religious, but he said, you know, he had an incident with my kids at the tennis court one day, and my kids came home and said that this guy started screaming at them and he was cursing at them. and we said something to the whoever you reported to, I don't know. So this guy realizes that it's my kids that had given that report. He said, you know, I never cursed at your kids. I don't know what they're talking about. I never swore. And I said to him, you know, thank God my kids don't really know what it is, like what curse words are. They just know that they're bad words, because thank God they're not exposed to curse words. So like you could have said stupid and they would have thought you cursed at them, or you could have said whatever, a host of words. And my kids, I'm not going to tell them like that's not a curse word, because I just don't want them to use it. I haven't differentiated for them what's what. And the guy was like in shock that like my kids would call some of the words, I don't know what he used, but I don't think he's lying if he says that he didn't curse. I think maybe the kids really don't know what's what. But yeah, there's an innocence with that. And I felt proud, and I felt like it was a Kiddush Hashem explaining that to him even.
See, Mayor, right? Yeah. So I totally relate to that. Mayor, I would think that, you know, you, unlike most people, would have the ability to go to such a doctor and say, like, I'm just tell me why you do that. Like, tell me what maybe, you know, in your stature and your position and your feeling and your life experience, how can somebody look at a Holocaust survivor and not be able to, you know, answer that question with real? I mean, maybe they'll say something that's genuine. Maybe they feel scared. Maybe they feel unsafe. If that's the case, that might be. But more often than not, I don't think that's what it is. I think there's a certain achrayus. Achrayus means, you know, there's a responsibility. I know somebody, for example, is business. They have to eat in restaurants. They have to eat, you know, drink cocktails with people. And they're in an environment that if they wear a yarmulke, they're afraid of what it looks like, because if they're wearing a yarmulke and they're going to a non-kosher restaurant for me, now maybe they shouldn't. But if their business is in such a situation, they feel that it's maybe more of a chilul Hashem, more of a desecration of God's name. I don't know, blessed having not been in that situation. But be that as it may, you know, the idea of wearing your Judaism, the idea of being proud of your Judaism, the idea of like associating the way you interact with people, and there's no way to conceal your Judaism. I think that's the real main message here, is that no, whether we do the right thing or the wrong thing, it's reported. It's going to be reported. Now, maybe unfairly, it's not reported as regularly as, you know, the bad things that we do. The good things aren't reported as, you know, the nice Linda Love Golden, who was loving to her neighbor, it was a hater of Jews. That doesn't get reported as much as the, you know, the fellow who's this Jewish guy who cuts off this African American in the grocery store and is rude and belligerent and obnoxious. Oh, you know, New York Post, those Jews. The point being is that, you know, we are advertising our faith no matter what. And what we understand from this very critical and important lesson here is that how we advertise our faith is met with some level of response. Now, some people they'll be killed with kindness, and therefore they'll be just have to roll up into a hole, into a ball, and just not respond. And then there's the Avimelechs of the world who are going to make peace with us, who are going to make treaties with us. Meaning, I read that parsha, I read those sentences, those phrases, those psukim, is that he didn't really want to make peace with him. He didn't really want to have anything to do with him. I'm happy to kick you out. I have no interest in making a covenant with you, but I'm an idiot. I'm foolish if I don't, because you live with God and God lives with you. So it's even in my own best interest. It's even in my own best interest. Hey, Tova, how you doing? Good to see you.
That's what I say. If you cannot be yourself,
this is just a ghost.
You cannot be good to others. You have to first to love yourself and be truthful with yourself. And if you're not truthful with yourself, you cannot be truthful to others.
Right. Part of that truth.
People what don't know how to explain our religion in what we believe, they should not go preach about this, because they don't know the right answers to give.
Right. But part of that truthfulness.
And that's the problem what we have, that a lot of people trying to explain something what they don't know.
Right. Yeah, it's true. And part of that truthfulness is a certain level of religious integrity. And that religious integrity is to be knowing of what it is that you believe in. Like I maybe wouldn't be as confident to walk out in the public thoroughfare with a yarmulke if I didn't know how to defend what I'm supposed to defend by wearing my yarmulke. right? So I'd rather, the path of least resistance is a path I'd rather take. And the reality is that there is a level of being ambiguous and being, lacking confidence, more a function of your own understanding of what it is. But you have to be confident. You sit in front of, lots of people, and people are going to ask you, and they're going to challenge you. They're going to challenge your integrity. They're going to challenge your ways and means. And you have to know what to say. You have to know how to answer. The Mishnah says you have to know how to answer the apikoros. You have to know how to answer the scoffer. And part of knowing how to answer the scoffer is you answer the scoffer not even by engaging the scoffer. You answer the scoffer by living a valuable life that other people want to model.
Do you believe, though, that there are places...
Tova literally looks like a ghost there.
I look like a ghost. I did just want to add, though, something for this, which is, like, I guess we're very proud also. But I think as adults, we have a harder time being proud of who we are and sharing. And we're always worried what somebody else is going to think. But my 8-year-old son he's in Del Prado, which is the public school. And they had to do some facts about something. He wrote an entire book, a 12-page book about Jewish history and the Holocaust, all by himself. We had nothing to do with this. And why the Aron Kodesh is so important to share with all of his friends, none of whom are either Jewish or religious, because he's so proud of who he is and where he comes from. And just it's just an amazing thing that children feel so much stronger and so much prouder and so much more able to share who they are and not as worried about what other people think as we are as adults.
So I don't think it's just children. I think that it's children who are raised by people who instill that in them. And that could be the people who are less comfortable being proud to wear those things. Sometimes it has to do with, not to blame their parents, but it's always the parents' fault. I'm sure the father, but it has to do with their upbringing. Sometimes, maybe they lived in a place where they couldn't wear a kippah, or maybe when these doctors went to medical school, they were faced with, things that made it challenging, and they just never felt comfortable then putting on their kippah. So I think Zevi feeling comfortable to share all that comes from his home. And I think that those things stick with you when you become an adult.
They do. I mean, but it's interesting that you see that, especially as a first grade teacher, that you have all these children that you deal with on a daily basis from all different backgrounds. Most of them are from religious homes, but you do have some that are not. But it's interesting because we go places, and sometimes we drive from here to New York, let's say, and we stop in the middle of nowhere. And sometimes I have to say to our children, listen, you can wear a kippah, but I always tell them, you need to remember that you're a Jewish boy, and when you wear a kippah, you represent an entire nation, not just yourself. And of course, he's still like a little boy, so he has his little boy moments, but it's something to remember no matter where we are, that you need to be more than just this little boy, which is, whether it's sad or not, it's also like something very powerful, that he has the power to represent an entire nation.
That's amazing.
That's beautiful.
I love that. I think that's super. I think that really, really is super.
I think it builds kids when they know they have a responsibility. That's good for kids to know that they, not just anything goes anytime, any place. Like, you're a Jew, and that means something.
I actually think, to your point, though, it's right, though. But I think if parents have that confidence, and they understand the responsibility of what it means to represent not just yourself and your family, immediate family, but your people, that resonates to the next, to the children. I think that's so true. The difference between those who have it and those who don't, oftentimes, more often than not, I would say, it really is a function of the confidence that they see. Just even, Tova, as you talk about it, you can see the confidence that your children are exposed to. And that confidence is what allows you, to know well that if they're going to put their yarmulke on their head and they're going to go into the rest stop to buy a soda, on your trip to New York, they're going to know that means that there's a please and a thank you, that it's not just a please and a thank you because you should say please and thank you because it's the right thing to do. It's a please and a thank you on behalf of the Jewish people.
Yeah.
I was in a shul in Passaic, New Jersey, a number of years ago, and I saw Rabbi Nussin Sherman. You know who Rabbi Nussin Sherman is? Art Scroll, the editor-in-chief of Art Scroll, Nussin Sherman, right? So Matthew, you whether it's an Art Scroll Gemara, whether it's an Art Scroll Siddur or Tehillim, not to put you on the spot, sorry about that. But the Art Scroll is like, everybody knows Art Scroll today. There's nothing not Art Scroll. So I wanted to go over to Rabbi Nosson Sherman. I don't know him and he didn't know me, but I wanted to go over to him because I was just so, I don't know. He was such a big figure, such a towering person. He did something with such a massive contribution. So I went over to him. I said, Rabbi Sherman, he says, yes. I just want to say good Shabbos. Friday night davening. After Friday night, I said, I just want to say good Shabbos to you. And you don't know me. Of course, we know you. I said, on behalf of the Jewish people, I just want to say good Shabbos and thank you so much. He like gave me a pinch on my cheek. It was so loving and so endearing. And that's what it is. Rabbi Pesach Kron, after I told him the story, he told me he invited him to one of his kids' wedding and he called him up to the chuppah for a bracha. And he called him up, the Rebbe of Klal Yisrael, the Rebbe of the Jewish people should be mechubed with that bracha. It's powerful because the truth is, like, it didn't even matter my name. What's my name? My name to him is nothing. On behalf of the Jewish people, you're an amazing person. And whether it's wearing a yarmulke or wearing tzitzis or writing a story about the Holocaust, and Tov, I would just tell you, you should bring Zevi to Mayor, and you could, like, they should have a conversation and share that, because that experience would be even more enhanced, to see Mayor, to sit, you could sit socially distance outside. Mayor, I'm sorry to invite people to your house, but I'm just inviting them to your patio outside. You can sit in the front. And you'll invite, and seriously, and you'll sit together and he'll tell them stories and he'll say what motivated him. And it'll be an incredible experience. And it'll continue to give him that pride that we all feel. And that I guess we can end on this. And when the next Bozo the Clown gets up and is a Holocaust denier in a public school system, the next generation of children and families who Zev Hackerman is going to be a man one day who's going to have to stand up and defend the authenticity and the truth and the survivors and the victims and the voice of those who perished in the Holocaust. He wrote a book and he met with Mayor, and he's now, oh my gosh, he's like fired up. So that being fired up, it puts Avimelech in check. It puts Latson in check. Thank you. And it puts like ourselves in a position to be the greatest source of inspiration to anybody and everybody.
So that's why I said to the people there that they should be truthful to their children, that they should tell them the truth.
That's right.
They are very intelligent. They are very knowledgeable children today, and they should be said the truth to them. That's right. Let them make up their mind by themselves.
That's right.
Just if you don't tell them the truth, you tell them some stories, what is nicht dahin and nicht daher. So they are now limbo.
Yeah.
Beautiful. This
okay.
was so special.
Everybody,
we
love everybody. Wish everybody a beautiful Shabbos. Thank you so much for being part of it.
Good Shabbos to everybody.
Around the Shabbos.
Light the Shabbos candle, one extra for the Holocaust.
One extra Shabbos candle for those who perished in the Shoah and those who survived the Shoah, to keep them in their memory alive in such a way. So thank you so much, Erin, for being part of it.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Rebbetzin.
Thank you.
We love you all. We love you.
Good Shabbos to everybody.
Can't wait to see
Shabbos.
Our real Shabbos table. Our real Shabbos table. Good Shabbos, everybody.
Shabbos. Bye-bye.